Hello Fleur.
Hi.
Thank you for joining today for our Women in Leadership series.
Thank you for having me. You're welcome.
Could you give an introduction to you and then a little bit about your career to date?
Certainly. So I'm Fleur. I currently run a small consulting firm called Hicks Global Consulting. Being Fleur Hicks. That's it. I hate to use the label entrepreneur, but I'm a twice exited founder. Having first founded a marketing agency and then a management consulting firm delivering to the finance sector, in particular private equity. And now that I've exited those two companies, I'm building my third firm. With a view to utilising sort of data and technology a little bit more within the finance sector, and helping decisions be made with a little bit more data behind it.
Yeah. Very topical, I think, for the industry as it is today. There are so many questions I've got for you based on that. Could you maybe start us off with how you've got to where you are today?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So, and then we'll come on to the kind of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't, leave school, university thinking, great, I'm going to go into finance. I actually had aspirations to be an award-winning film director.
Amazing.
So I went into production, TV production, as a bit of a sort of starting point. Realised pretty quickly that you need talent, apparently. So sort of refocused and went much more into sort of the production marketing side. And that's how I got into digital and data and attribution. And it sounds very dull, but actually it's quite exciting.
I don't think it does.
When you realise that numbers make sense and they can sort of validate decisions and they can qualify and quantify decision making, then it becomes quite exciting, really, because you can start to map things out. So that's ultimately how I got into the digital side of things. My first business was a digital marketing agency, social media in particular, and how I founded all my businesses is because I saw not just a gap in the market, but ultimately something that wasn't quite working right.
Okay.
And I've always been of the belief that actually, if you want to make change happen, you do it from within.
Yes.
There's no point in complaining about something if you're not willing to do something about it. So I founded...
That resonates a lot.
So I founded a social media marketing agency that was committed to attribution. There were a lot of sort of marketing agencies at the time who were perhaps not being particularly, not honest, but they weren't being forward thinking in how their billing model might be equated to the cost per acquisition, for instance, and therefore I wanted to sort of change that and say, well, actually, this is how you can quantify what you should be spending on this type of marketing. It hasn't been done yet, but here we are doing it. And I joined the IAB Social Media Council, and we sort of made it happen, which is great. So saw a problem, solved it, and then sold that business. And it's probably, you may hear this quite often, but when you do sell a business, people often then start approaching you with, questions about how they can raise capital or exit their business. And so I accidentally got into management consulting on the exit prep side of things. That's how I ended up in finance. So I was helping sort of small businesses raise capital, prepare for exit. And it was once again an observation that I had in developing all these really good deal rooms full of rich data, helping with the digital and data transformation side of things in their exit prep in order to add value to their proposition, that I saw that some of the incoming DD that was happening was a little bit more qualitative than I would like. So once again, I sort of got on my high horse and thought, well, if you're going to change the way capital is deployed in the finance markets, I've just got to do it myself. So then founded 140 along with 2 business partners, and we brought digital diligence and data-led decision making to private equity.
Very good. And it was from spotting a problem or spotting how processes weren't being run as efficiently or effectively.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm a big believer in data plus people.
Yes.
I don't think that they can operate in silo, but a lot of decision making at the time, we're talking 14 years ago now, that was happening in the mid-market and lower mid-market was really quite opinion-led.
Yeah.
And as I say, there is a place for that. There's a place for customer reference calls. There's a place for getting an expert on board, of course. But is there also a place for refining that initial view and taking the first pass look by using more quant analysis? Yes. I mean, it happens in public markets all the time. So why were we ignoring it in private markets? It is, after all of our pension capital in those fund pots. So I sort of wanted to make sure that it was being deployed effectively, quite frankly. So yeah.
May I ask you then? This, very topical.
Sure.
Running events based on it, but when you mention data and people,
yes.
So we've gone through this evolution. Particularly, I'd say over the last decade, but more recently with AI coming into force.
Yep.
Innovation, then people questioning what is innovation, and AI becoming the buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the way the industry has changed, how do you see that now kind of impacting the data and people decisioning?
I see it impacting it positively, actually. I think that AI is brilliant for bringing efficiencies to processes.
Yeah.
There is a governance question, of course.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's come up in our industry events.
Yes, exactly. There is a governance question. Yeah. And when technology is cantering at a faster pace than policy can be written, there is a worry there. And therefore there is a reticence to adoption. But AI is only a threat to people in so much as the way we adopt it as people. And by that I mean, there's a lot of fear around AI replacing jobs, analyst jobs, things like that. No, you still got to sort of touch and feel data in order to really, give some clear observations about it, and AI can help you crunch the numbers, but you've got to then look at that analysis.
Yes, I agree.
What it allows you to do, and I'm really beholden to this view actually, is that it takes away the sort of grunt work and allows you much more sort of creative and analytical thinking. Mm-hmm. So as an analyst in finance, AI can assist you within a closed environment, so that it's nice and compliant. It can allow you to sort of analyse the data or do the number crunching, cross-referencing. The feedback loop becomes a lot quicker to extract and sort of start to model it. And then you can think about it more, and you can apply that expertise to that analytical output, the eventual output, because it usually takes a couple of iterations, let's face it. And that's when expertise and much more qualitative overlay becomes really important.
Yeah, agreed. We it's touching upon the human oversight still. And you've clearly mentioned around the governance associated with it as well.
Yeah, and I think it leaves room for EQ to come back into the mix, actually, because one of the themes that I've seen crop up in your leadership series, as I've been watching the podcasts, is that there is much more room and acceptance of the quality of EQ. Yeah. And actually, IQ analytics is great, but if we're adding that that creative layer as well, and those different perspectives and those different experiences, then you have a better output, whether it's sort of a trading forecast or whether it's a due diligence or a value creation piece or new innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. And from your experience so far then, Fleur, and maybe the entrepreneurialist roles where you have founded and then exited some of the businesses, what other changes maybe have you seen in the industry that have helped to maybe shape the way your career has gone over time?
Yeah, I think and I was thinking about this on the way in, I think one of the most resounding changes that I've seen is an appreciation of the quality of human contribution. And by human, I mean real human, authentic contribution, not cookie cutter sort of, not to dismiss it, but not cookie cutter sort of PwC 3-year training. Everybody comes out and then gets a job and they've got that lovely stamp in it. And there is a place for that, of course.
Yeah.
But I think there's an appreciation of different viewpoints. And I think that's come about as a result of two things. Number one, more, I guess, egalitarian-minded and experimentally minded people coming into the workforce generationally. You just sort of can't stop the onset of that of that expanded mindset, really. And there are therefore people coming out of the industry who are perhaps a little more beholden to a rigid framework that sort of opens up the space for different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching things.
Yeah.
So I think it's been a generational shift, actually, that's, I guess, been a catalyst for some of this. But to observe some of the changes and how that's manifested, well, the Old Boys Club is slowly but surely, not entirely but surely, crumbling, and therefore, more people are having their voices heard. From a female perspective, I've seen more females entering the financial space. When I started out, I don't think there were too many blokes in the room when I was ever sort of presenting a DD piece or having a value creation workshop. And there are still fewer females than I would like in the room, but it is changing. And joining great forums and membership groups like Level 20 and March Women is fantastic. It's fantastic because it just encourages more gender diversity in that respect. And then hopefully we can start to encourage diversity in other areas as well.
Absolutely. And you did touch upon maybe the diversity of thought with new people coming in and the expanded mindset. Maybe it is from life experiences coming into the FS industry, for example. When you have been, so not when you founded your businesses, but when you've been in industry, so either the marketing, digital side or management consultancy, what have you seen that they've done very well? And then maybe on the flip side, what have you seen that maybe they need to do slightly differently?
As an industry too, well, I don't think the marketing industry has much of a problem when it comes to diversity. The cohort that are attracted to marketing in the first place generally tend to be a bit more sort of open-minded and you don't necessarily need the accounting degree and then to go into something and then do your MBA, otherwise you won't even be looked at. I think the finance industry has got a lot of catching up to do in that respect, but it is. So what are they doing well? They, in the finance industry, in fact, there are some specific examples of firms, particularly in the lower mid-market, like YFM and LDC, who are really contributing quite a lot to that diversity piece and holding seminars and female cohorts and networking events. That's for females in particular, but also driving encouragement of people from other backgrounds. To come and join internships and things like that. So that's a real sort of active and positive thing. That really is fairly recent in the finance industry. And again, my exposure is to private equity and VCs. So might be slightly skewed in that respect, but there's a lot more going on. And that's being driven by people in the industry who have come from different backgrounds. I mean, I've got a sociology degree. You know, I don't have an accounting degree, and I don't have an MBA. I'm not sure what an MBA could teach me now after 20 years in industry. But I guess there are people encouraging different paths to where we are in the finance industry now, which I think is a really, really good thing. There are, however, some legacy stereotypes that remain. And there are still golf trips in the finance industry. Despite 25% of the employee base being female. And there are barriers to entry at certain levels. I think the pressure on females after having children to continue working all hours is something that is only very slowly shifting, which is why you see people drop out at certain levels of management. So that could still be changed. I think.
I think that's a really interesting point. I hosted our International Women's Day event in March, and we took a couple of topics: the broken rung and the glass ceiling. So essentially, women in management and how do you encourage it? But then is it that first step into management that might be the challenge because maybe they are childbearing age, or that's the path they want to take and be a working parent, versus they've reached a certain level and then have they hit that glass ceiling, or where is the glass ceiling? So it's a really interesting kind of talking point. But maybe, you've alluded to it there, Fleur. So
you do see it happen. I was very, very fortunate to have been raised by my dad, who just never, it was never part of the conversation in our house that there were any limitations to what you could do and what you could be.
I was going to ask about role model.
Oh, so
there we go.
Well, he's my role model. And I was very fortunate, therefore, to have been raised without any self-limiting beliefs. And I believe that you can have it all, but I think there's a misrepresentation of having it all, meaning having the family and the career, but still having to work really, really hard at this and maintaining all of this and carrying all of the mental load of the household and. Now we need society in general to change and for more men perhaps to carry things like the mental load.
How? The big question is always how, isn't it? Like
how? I think managing your own expectations and prioritizing what's most important is essential, but also how do you be a mother and run a business, being the two sort of main things in my life, is that you run the business in such a way that is welcoming to other people who require that flexible lifestyle. If I can't work after 5 p.m. because I have to be a mother for the next 4 hours, then I don't expect anybody else to. And how does that manifest in practice? Well, I give my clients realistic expectations in terms of delivery. sure, you might want that DD delivering on Thursday, but you can, if you want to use us, you're going to have it on Monday. Does that mean you lose projects? Fewer than you would think. Fewer than you would think, actually. And there are always false deadlines in every industry. So it's sort of leading by example and showing people that work-life balance can be maintained simply by creating the framework internally to make it happen.
And you've talked a lot there about the kind of like the format and the logistics of it. How about internally and where you lead these people, the leadership style of you, maybe taking it now within your own business or previously throughout your career.
Yeah.
What do you think has contributed to that being successful for you?
I would say probably comes down to authenticity and integrity, which are my core personal values.
Yeah.
In general. I think if you're trying to be something different in industry, and that which would be from the outside, then it's not going to work anyway. But you don't have to play a role just because you work in finance. And I think that's a bit more appreciated these days, actually.
I agree.
And I'm glad it's becoming manifest and more people are tapping into that.
Yeah.
Their authentic self, which, people, maybe some people still snigger about, but, it's fine. I have a crystal by my laptop. I don't want, I don't want bad energy reaching me, and that's fine. I'm open about it. And that which was sort of joked about a little bit in the office at 140 when I was running that. Actually, everybody started accepting that being authentic in the workplace was quite a nice thing to be. Start bringing more of themselves in.
Yeah.
And where does that lead to? That leads to diversity of thought, diversity of approach. They don't need to have that cookie cutter mentality and thinking. And that's what made our product better. That's what made our company better.
Yeah.
And they were happy.
Very good.
It's good.
I think that ties into the unconscious and conscious bias as well. So when you are going through that build phase of, whether it's been M&A or private equity or for your own business now, when you do look to do the build and looking at people, then not having this idea or idealistic view of, people in the exact same kind of format as me. It's essential to hire people who aren't like you as well. So many businesses hire like for like, so to speak. And anybody who's done a modicum of sort of personality training knows that you need a balanced team. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I mean, gosh, imagine sort of 10 of me running around a room having loads of ideas. I needed my right-hand person to be like, Fleur, focus, no, we're doing this. And it's good. But that comes through EQ as well. Yes, absolutely.
And actually, there are still many, many firms who, again, probably have legacy employees and a legacy framework whereby a senior partner 10 years ago has hired somebody just like them. And, where does that bring you? Let's ultimately think about what the objective is, and that's to see returns for their investors. If there's no sort of evolving thought process, then you're going to get stuck. And actually, it would be a really interesting analysis to do to see which firms have closed down or funds have failed to raise capital, and it's whether or not it's because of stagnancy of thought and frameworks.
It's an interesting point of view, very much so. I do want to come on to you. You've mentioned around authenticity, which I think is really, really important. For you personally, Fleur, just getting to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
What do you feel your key success traits have been? Like, where have they come from throughout your career?
Ooh, where have they come from? That's an interesting question. I think it really stems from the lack of self-limiting belief. Now, was I incredibly lucky to have been born in the UK where opportunity is abundant? And was I really lucky to have sort of flopped out with a couple of brain cells and things like that? Yes, of course. But I was most lucky to be born into a family that really didn't have any sort of limitations in the narrative as to what you could achieve in life, and that you should go after your dream, which is great. I've truly believe that. I think I only encountered limitations, and by the way, I was raised in rural Somerset in a tiny backwater village, so that as far as I was aware was the world. The world was opportunity, and great, go and get what you can, sort of thing. I only really sort of encountered people's own limitations and beliefs that were different to that. Every opportunity is one that can be achieved. When I went into the working world, and I thought that was quite sad, actually, to begin with. I was too young to sort of be a mentor then, but then I sort of very happily sort of surrounded myself with people who I could look up to who didn't have that sort of limiting belief, which is great. And again, I think it's down to luck as much as anything. And then now, as I've evolved through my career, I just want to sort of make sure that people really believe that of themselves as well. And there are all sorts of reasons that people might not think they can do something. Everything from socio-economical to political to religious to everything, that molds us. And we're all molded in different ways. But if you can understand yourself, and tap into your authentic self, understand what you really want to achieve, and then go out and try and find a way to do that fits within your belief framework, then I think it's really important. So I think self-awareness and awareness of other people is really important part of the sort of authenticity piece.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's sort of working hard and leading by example, rolling your sleeves up, encouraging people to be their best. Park your ego at the door, I'd say, as a leader. Really park your all the platitudes and things like that. If you're seeking those platitudes, then perhaps you're not in leadership for the right reasons. Intentionally. It's much happier experience to see other people excel, and succeed. It really is. And if you can encourage the next generation to be their best selves, and to be kind as well in business. You don't have to be nasty, especially in finance. You don't have to be a bully.
Fleur, you just mentioned about being authentic, self-aware and kind in business. What would your key piece of advice be? Either to your younger self or younger female sugar talent coming through?
I would, in addition to being yourself and not being afraid to be yourself, and don't talk about the glass ceiling because you might manifest it, sort of thing.
I agree.
Is to get excited about stuff. I think people sometimes are a bit cautious. Now, again, maybe it's just the nerd coming out of me, but to get excited about being able to change the world in one little way, one positive little way, even if it's in a big organisation or whether you're founding a business there is something you as a person are contributing to the world. So do what excites you, get excited about your career and your future. There are pathways to everything. Be your true self and just go get it. Really, we are so lucky to live where we do. And And the opportunity is there to be had, to be got, to be gained. And just do it for the love, do it for the passion, not for the ego, I would say.
I love the positivity around this. My team would say, they know me all the time, I always say everything's an opportunity and it's in your control. So
I think you've
I'm taking some of your advice.
Very much more succinctly said what I was just rambling on about. But yes, that's absolutely it. Yeah. And there will be obstacles, of course, but if you prepared yourself for life, then obstacles can be overcome or swerved around, or you build a wall to climb over it. There's always a way. There's always a way. Mm-hmm. And you might say, right, okay, it's easy for you to say that. You've got a sort of plummy British accent and all this kind of stuff. You know, I did grow up in the countryside. I went to a state school. I think it's been in special measures for about 30 years now.
Oh, wow.
I went and got.
Yeah.
You can. There are responsibilities, and some people have, lots of responsibilities, things tying them to certain things, but you can go and get it.
It's the hard work. It's that go-getting attitude I love that you've been talking through, Fleur.
Well, it doesn't feel like hard work. It's fun, does it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing more of your story.
You're very welcome.
And your very brilliant pieces of advice.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.